Let's go! LSU lands a commitment from Ethan Calloway, the big 6'7" offensive lineman from the state of North Carolina. So comment down below your thoughts on LSU picking up a big 4-star OT. And I'm going to give you a few thoughts on what this actually means for LSU's recruiting class moving forward. So obviously, great job by Brad Davis and company to really work on this kid's commitment. I actually watched a few interviews that he has done, on visits with Florida State, Tennessee, and many others. This is a guy who has traveled quite a bit in his recruitment, and keep in mind, North Carolina is kind of up there, so it's not necessarily easy travels to a lot of the schools that he has been interested in. So obviously, to recruit as well as LSU did this young man is actually some pretty impressive stuff, because North Carolina is not necessarily a place where LSU has had a lot of players come in and play. Thaddeus Moss was from North Carolina, but that was obviously a little bit different, him being a transfer. Lewis Neal was one of the few North Carolinians. So I think there's been about 3 or 4 that has come in, but obviously this is very, very, very nice. So I'll share with you a few thoughts about him as a prospect. Obviously, he has got some real athleticism. He is a guy that does love to get to the second level. He has shown the propensity to pull. Obviously, when you look at his tape and you compare it to that of like a Lance Hurd or a Will Campbell, he doesn't finish people as much as you would have liked to have seen just looking at his 4+ minute highlight tape, but he does do a really good job, following through with his blocks, comboing on double teams and just moving people, and you do see a lot of that here. Also, this offense was very interesting to watch. As you saw, there was a lot of mixed direction, triple option kind of things, but there was also a lot of snaps where they're lined up in shotgun. Now, what I will say, and I'll save this for the PHL Patreon. Once again, that is linked down below. If you want a deeper Ethan Calloway breakdown, we've already done one. There is one structural major difference that LSU is going to have to take out of his game at the next level. So if you want to see that, I will link that down below. One final thing, listening to the interviews, the kid has a good head on his shoulders, and he is going to want to come in and learn and be someone that could potentially play right away. Now, the next thing we want to bring up is offensive line recruiting and why it is so important. So, obviously, you hear it all the time. This position is critical for this class. You hear it at every position, but the more I look into it and the more I actually think about it, I think high school offensive line recruiting is more important than any other position we have in the sport, for a few reasons, especially when you look at LSU as a program. So specifically to LSU, this is not the position that LSU is really known for. They have a big reputation. Taylor Swift, for you fans out there. They have a reputation at every position outside of mainly offensive line. You can make a strong case that LSU in the state of Louisiana is historically known as the school for almost every position outside of offensive line. It's one of the few, right? And that's just because Louisiana just hasn't produced a whole lot of elite offensive linemen as they have wide receivers, running backs, and pretty much every other position. So you have to go out of state to bring in these types of players. Now, we've had some good years recently, obviously with Lance and Emory and Will, but for the most part, to get the elite guys, you got to go out of state. And also, just in general, offensive linemen, 5 are going to be on the field at all times, and those 5 are likely going to play for most of the game, and you also need 3 or 4 backups. It's hard to accumulate those types of numbers, and that's why it's very important to get as many of these kinds of guys in your lineup because, well, they play such a high volume of snaps. There is a propensity for that position to get hurt, and it is a position that you do need to be at least 7 or 8 deep at. And then the final thing when it comes to offensive line recruiting in particular, you have got to get high school offensive linemen. Now, that's not me saying that you can't go get offensive linemen out of the transfer portal. LSU has done just that. Obviously, bringing in Mason Lunsford, we'll see how good he is for LSU. But the truth is, when a Mason Lunsford, a Power 5 starter level player, enters the transfer portal, there's just not as many offensive linemen that enter the portal that have Division I starters experience, right? You saw last year Tyler Steen enter the portal out of Vanderbilt. We were after him, and he ended up picking Alabama. The truth is there's just not as many of those guys out there. J. Bud Davis has done really good data on that. It is a lot easier to go grab you a pass catcher or a DB even, if you will. So skill position guys, by and large, are a little bit easier to find in the portal, whereas offensive linemen, you really do need to develop those guys through high school recruiting. So obviously a very nice pickup for LSU from so many different angles, okay? Now, you're looking at his recruiting profile. Obviously, there is a lot of variance in how the recruiting services view him. That's okay. That's a good thing, right? So, obviously, good stuff, bringing in a nice 4-star. Boom, I'm looking at you. Yes, you, and I know you're going to comment down below. Let me know if you think he is the number 1 rated offensive lineman LSU has committed up to this point. Because Khayree Lee, I flat out love watching him play football. He mows people down. He is the only offensive lineman in the state of Louisiana that currently is a top 600 national recruit. So, yes, he is a 3-star, but he is a pretty solid 3-star, and he is heavy. He is 330 plus. So, man, I have got to be honest with you. The absolute most exciting offensive player I have seen in 2024 in the state of Louisiana has been Lee. Now, how does that translate to the next level? I don't know, but this is an offensive lineman who plays with a lot of energy, a lot of swag. He's got the, you don't see this from offensive linemen all too often. He's got the Alvin Kamara turf tape on the back of his arms. But goodness, I just love watching him. I mean, when a running back runs for a touchdown in this offense, he will oftentimes sprint. I want you to see this right here, okay? I want you just to enjoy what you're about to witness right here. Now, this is a double team, so it does help out, but I want you to see how far back they drive this double team. This is 10, 15, and then he just plays with so much energy and joy. I love it. I flat out love it. And you're going to see it a few times here. When he is playing this position, he will run down his own running backs. Not obviously catching them, but if they run for a long touchdown, he will do, the Patrick Peterson arm wave. And I just love that. I love seeing the energy. I love seeing the joy. I love it. And another thing I really like about him is this guy plays offensive tackle and offensive guard, even though he more projects to be a guard at the next level. But when it comes to pulling from one side of the line of scrimmage to the other, when it comes to playing pretty much anywhere on the offensive line outside of center, this guy just plays hard. Now, once again, I'm still very early in judging him, so I'm not going to give him a complete grade just yet, but I'm telling you right now, I think he is very, very, very underrated. And you could just tell his teammates like playing with him. So, once again, it's not the be-all, end-all. As we have shown, offensive line recruiting is very, very, very hard, but I am super glad to have him as – I almost burped right there. That was kind of weird. But still, I'm super glad that he is a big part of this crop. Now, once again, I want you to see this, okay? Look at this, all right? So this play runs for a long touchdown, run a nice little counter to the right side. So here he is, and look at the big man move. Look at him move, baby. Celebrating with his teammates. I love it. I freaking love it. I like seeing that because most offensive linemen, they're not even going to bother. So let me know. is Khayree Lee your number one offensive line commitment up to this point? I'm really excited about this offensive line crop. Hopefully some more elite guys join in. But, man, Khayree Lee, you got yourself a fan right here, baby. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! And tonight we are doing... What are we doing? We're doing popcorn chicken. Let's go.